As mostly as part of the introduction of the mobile application development, we will discuss today about these are the topics. Mainly to know first history of the mobile application development, and then what are the steps or what is the process is involved in the application development. Actually, what type of the steps we need to take to develop the applications, then followed up by, so what are the types of the applications which are there, like native mobile apps or web apps and the hybrid mobile apps, and what are those apps, what are the pros and cons. Then actually to develop these type of the applications, what type of the cross platforms frameworks are available. So these are the main topics we will discuss today, followed up with the questions and answers, Q&A. Yeah, able to hear me, right, everyone? Wilfred?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, if we see actually mobile, actually, if you see now, actually, it's a part of our life. Like nowadays, if you see without mobile, we are feeling very uncomfortable. If we see one of the survey, actually, what happens is the moment once we wake up from the bed to till sleep, every time actually while traveling or while eating or while basically discussing or while going some, every time here or where we try to use, actually that's how actually the people life is addicted to use the smartphone actually. But if you see in the traditionally once upon a time, right, it was only phone means it was using for only like sending the text or making the calls. But nowadays that entire actually the picture of the phone is completely changed from sending the text and calling to altogether different. Now it's become a smartphone is a become a multifunctional device where it helps to learn, earn, and have fun. Right? If you see these all things we can do with the smartphone now. But to achieve all these things, this is made possible by development of the mobile applications. If you have the mobile applications, now you can do all these things. That's how actually the mobile applications has changed the life and changed the smartphone, how it is a part of our life. If we see the variations, actually the first version of the mobile phone has launched like this actually around in the 1980s. Then now if you see the smartphone also become its variations like future phone and smartphone, it has converted to very style devices now, right? Yeah, just we will run through quickly the brief about the mobile app development history, like where it has started. I think in Kamal also it's mentioned some of the slides where in the 1970s IBM has started some of the software. And if we see first 1973, the Motorola's Mitchell and Dr. Martin Cooper, the first mobile phone has started working, and that made commercialization in the 1983 with the name as the Dintac 8000X. Then later on in the 1993, if you see, first touch phone is introduced to the market with some of the applications like calendar, clock, and calculator. Then later on, from 1996 to 2006, in this era, a lot of future phones has come with the various vendors, various OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, by their own OSs. Like whereas in the Palm for the personal digital assistants to run the third-party applications. Then in the around 1990s, 2000 time, Nokia has launched the first application with the game Snake game that became very popular at that time. That made actually to create a lot of developers to create more and more applications to change the people expectations and people necessities. And later on 2002, and the BlackBerry phone came into the market actually with the email functionality. I think till that time we were not having the option actually to use the email from the smartphone. It was completely using all through the computers and PCs. But later on, it completely changed the market. Now, complete emails compared to the desktop, people started using more usage in the mobiles. Then whereas, yes, when it is coming to the Huawei also, 2004 to the 2006 is the crucial time where Huawei launched the first 2G and 3G phones to the market, where the first phone was a C300, and next is U626 is the first 3G phone which has launched to the market. Then later on, yes, these are the future phone era. Then next 2007 to till now, actually, it's a smartphone. Basically now it's not only from future phone to smartphone. If you see all the functionalities you can do from right from mobile phone. From 2007, the iPhone has come up with iOS with the Apple Store, App Store, where you can download the applications, relevant applications. Then 2008 to 2010, Google and Microsoft launched their own mobile OSs like Android OS and Windows OS to develop the applications and as well as the smartphones. Then it's a time actually 2011 to 2012, Huawei also launched the app gallery. That's called the Huawei App Store. First is launched in the China market. In the 2012, Huawei launched the first 4G phone. Then 2018, that app gallery is commercialized all over world, first with the first phone Huawei P20 in the overseas customers. Then later on, Huawei also started thinking to come up with their own OS, and it's unveiled in the 2019 August, Harmony OS name called as. And now App Gallery also, it is almost all available in around 170 countries with 78 languages. A lot of applications are available in the App Gallery, which is integrated now almost all with the Huawei phones now. So where you can develop a lot of the applications, top applications from the market and can use it. Yeah. Yes, these all is a theory or a history of the devices. But if we wanted to make it reality, if you wanted to develop that applications, we should have a operating systems or platform environments where you can develop the applications and to make reality in the phone. Actually, some of the popular mobile development solutions are, if we see first, like Symbian. It is basically the group of companies where it's formed and it is like become a Symbian Foundation. A lot of vendors like Nokia, Sony Ericsson, Motorola, and Samsung has contributed to make, and this was used to develop the applications as well as the phones. The next is Android, which is from Google. Then it's a BlackBerry. This is another OS, which is from Research in Motion, we generally call the BlackBerry phones. And there's another one, Palm OS, which is from basically for the mostly to have PDS. Then also Microsoft also has released the Windows Phone, like Windows 6 onwards, like Windows 7 and Windows 10 phones also. Then later on iPhone. Then also one more iPhone from Apple, and one more foundation was there from Linux organization, which is a lot of OEMs also was contributed to make one of the platform, Limo Foundation from Motorola and Samsung and all those things. And also one more platform called Bada platform from Samsung. These all are the operating systems which was available to make the phones actually. Then also along with some of the vendors like Qualcomm and Sun Microsystems also has come up with their runtime environments to develop the applications and can port it any of the mentioned OSs through the adaptation layers and their own virtual machines. Okay, these are some of the links was given actually to know more details. Yeah, we'll see, mostly actually the details was given here. So we'll see like if you see, I will touch upon the very key points here to know. Like if we see the Android, actually it's from Open Handset Alliance and it's from Google. It's an open source code. When it is the iOS, it's from Apple, and it's from basically it's a proprietary solution. And Symbian also it's from Nokia, and Windows from Microsoft, and BlackBerry is from BlackBerry Lim. Actually, if you see, actually that's how actually Android got the advantage of making the open source. That is how, if you see right now in the smartphones also, many of the users using the phones are from Android, because of a lot of applications, a lot of OEMs to make their own phones to come up with the free and open source. But yes, there are some of the proprietary components you need to take the license. Like if at all we wanted to use the Google Mobile Services, GMS, those things, definitely yes, the license is required. So apart from that, if you see the most of the code is from open source. That's how, if you, as this concept has came with the open source, like a lot of users were attracted actually to come up with the applications. And also if you see, I think you might have already heard from the Android, the application store is the Google Play. iOS we call App Store, and the Symbian it's from Nokia OVI Store. Windows Phone Store, and BlackBerry it's a BlackBerry World. lot of applications will be there. Yeah. The next point is yes. What is the process actually to develop the mobile application development? If we see actually to develop any of the application, it's not straightforward that I can have an idea and I can take the code and I can develop. There's a systematic process where you can follow actually to make it more seamless and very easy to reach to the market actually, if you follow these steps. Yes. The first step, most and important step is a strategy. Actually, the next is the analysis and planning, then design of particular the UI, what type of the thing, and then development of that particular application, then testing, then deployment and support. If you see the strategy, actually, basically, whenever we have some idea to develop some of the application, yes, a lot of ideas we have actually to develop. But in this phase, what we mostly need to consider is like for that idea, who are the users in the market, what type of users we are targeting. Then in that users, actually any already existing applications which are available, and what type of competition is available, and what type of features which I can come innovatively. That's the second step. And third step, you need to think about the goals and objectives of that particular app. Then you need to choose the platform, actually which platform I am going to use for my application development. This is mainly we need to more concentrate in the strategy phase, which can take you to the next step of the analysis and planning. If you are clear, basically if you don't know like what type of users I am providing my application, then we can't come up the use cases are exactly the requirements. That is how in the analysis and planning, as you are the clear target, so you can derive easily what are the use cases I need to provide through my application, and what type of requirements I need to support. Actually, what type of customer pain point is there, how can I solve from my through my application. And along with that, you also need to have a roadmap. If we have maybe a lot of requirements in the when we are identifying the application, but those all applications, those all requirements or use cases, it's not possible to develop in a very initial phase. So we can make a roadmap actually to make it actually these type of the requirements will release by this time, and next is this time, next is this. Everything, if you see the roadmap is important actually to know and to set the expectations for the customer who is using or who is targeting for our application. And also during the analysis and planning, you also need to identify what type of skill is required to develop this application. That's the most important thing actually. What type of skill is required, and you should gather that skill actually to develop. Yes. The next point is, yes, these all are very clear. The next point is, how can I make more user friendly and attractive to the users? That is where this particular phase, UI or UX design phase, will play a critical role, and it will give the man to machine interface actually, and creates actually the GUI where with rich experience. So you need to finalize that UI design actually, what type of UI design if we come up, then attract the users, and what is the better features I can provide to showcase all of my requirements in one shot to the users. The next step is, yes, now you are clear, you have a strategy, and next is you are also very clear about the use cases and requirements. And the third step is also UI is also ready. Now the most important point is your development actually. So when you are developing, you should define the technical architecture by making your own design and coding, and you should pick a technology stack, and you should also have a development milestones. Maybe for every interfaces might not be ready at the time when we are developing, but when that interface is not available, what's the alternate method I can follow up? Instead of blocking my entire future, how can I come up with the alternate solution to achieve that functionality? And that is how actually, if you see this majorly, these are the three integral parts, which is what is the technology you use to communicate with the server from the backend, and what are the APIs which you use to communicate from the application to the model, then UI, GUI, basically that's called the front end. Actually, these are the mostly phases and mostly the modules which you will cover as part of the application development. Yes, once your application is ready and once your development is finished, someone need to assure, actually we need to quality assure, we need to assurance the quality. So basically, when coming to the quality assurance, there are a lot of types of requirements which we have covered. Basically, the functional requirements or usability requirements, GUI requirements, performance, and the security testing and compatibility testing, regression. So those all use cases and those all testings needs to be covered as part of the testing, basically. So then once testing also finished, now we need to deploy actually this particular application and maintain that application. If you wanted to deploy this application, you should have an account to the particular app store first, because as you know, at the starting of the strategy and at the time of the analysis only, you are very clear about the skill, on which skill you wanted. Are you going to develop for the Android? Are you going for develop for the iOS? That's how you will be ready. Actually, the moment once your application is ready, you will have an account. There you will upload your application with the following metadata details, like basically the app's title, what is the application name, and what type of functionality is providing with a short note called description, and it's beyond category, and what are the type of the keywords actually to attract and to find easily your application, and what is the icon actually we can showcase to the launcher as part of this application requirement, and some of the screenshots. So these are the basically the steps which is involved as part of the mobile application development process. Yes, I wanted to stop here. If anyone has the question, we can discuss before going to the next step. Fine, I'll move to the next slide if that is. Yeah. So basically, as we discussed, there are three types of applications we can segregate. One is the native applications, and another one is the web applications, and another one is hybrid applications. Whereas when it is coming to the native applications, yeah, native applications actually these applications are built in specific programming languages for the specific device. Basically, it will use the device platform interface, native interfaces, to develop the applications. So means directly you will use the hardware functionality of that particular platform and you will develop the application. Like for example, if I wanted to develop one scan coder, I will use my own device camera, means you are using the native interface. That's how you call here the native applications actually. These are the applications which you need to download from corresponding Play stores. But here one thing we should remember, that the application which you developed as a native application for Android, that application will not work for the another application platform like iOS or Harmony. Means that's how this native applications, it's very particular to the programming language, it's particular to the device specific. That's how you will develop these type of the applications called native applications. In case if at all we wanted to use the same application for another platform, there is no other way, we need to develop in that particular platform. Yeah, so we will see some of the pros and cons actually. As the native applications use directly the native interfaces, it is very fast and responsive. Immediately you will get the response, and also it is very easy to tap to the wider device functionalities. Like if at all you wanted to use some of the sensors or camera, accelerometer or audio peripherals, so you will have directly the interfaces from the platform. Those uses you will use it through the hardware abstraction layer, and you will call directly in your application layer to use this particular interfaces. And also, as these applications, actually the native applications are intended to upload through the mobile app stores, it is more secure and safety, because the moment once you are uploading any of the application to the authorized application store, means your application need to go through a lot of certifications like compatibility test suits or their own proprietary test suits. Until unless you clear those test suits, that application is not allowed to upload into the app store. That's how it is say it's more safety and security. But there is one con also through that. We will discuss in this. Yeah. And coming to the cons, actually, yes, it's more expensive to develop, because the same application, if at all you wanted to use in another platform, you need to write that same code right from scratch, and you should develop in the complete different new OS. And also the moment once you have multiple users like Android users, Harmony users, Apple users, you should have a maintenance also. For example, if I fix one issue in particular one version of the Android, the same fix I also need to fix in the iOS as well as the Harmony. Like this, app maintenance is higher. And also one more problem is actually, like as I mentioned, actually it is more safe and secure actually if you get an opportunity to download the application from the application store. But at the same time, it is getting the approved actually from the various app stores also is long and tedious process. This all certifications you need to make sure, and for every version, for every incremental, like for example, if I fix some issue, again I need to run those test suits and get the approval, and then only I can release the next version. That's how actually there's a process is little long and tedious. This is about the native apps. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
So the last point that you said about getting the app approval. So if you do not have a native app also, then if we do some changes, then we would also need the app approval for that particular thing as well, right? If we like make a unified app for all the 3 operating systems or something like that.
Yes, see, that's what, right? If at all you develop any of the proprietary interface, you need to go for the test certification approval. For example, as long as if you are not using any of the interface, even if you run the test suits, that test case or that interface will not be tested and your app will be easily certified. That's what I am trying to say. Anyway, the moment once your application needs to upload to the application store, needs to follow some of the certifications as well as that security mechanisms. But if at all we are not using any of the proprietary interface, right, even if you run, that is easy to get the approval. That's what I am trying to say.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
One question regarding the same. Native means if we are using the native OS APIs.
Yeah, it's a standalone applications you developed for that particular platform, native interfaces. Okay. Yeah, there are another type of the applications which are available in the market called web applications. Mostly these applications run through the internet browser. Actually, it accessed through the mobile device web browsers. Actually, these applications not required to install through any of the Play Store. You can directly go and access those applications through your mobile web browser. So mostly these are the applications can be developed through in the HTML and CSS with the interactive of the like JavaScript or other similar language. Through that browser, you can use the platform interface to get some of the data, actually whatever you are trying to get the data. So when it is comparing to the native apps in the web apps, you don't need to download the applications, or these applications are not having a provision to download. Directly these applications you can go and directly open through your internet browser. Some of the applications, if you see like AliExpress, or maybe actually if you see before, not now, maybe Book My Show also has got an app, but the same way you also have one more variant through the Book My Show also you can open through browser, like Flipkart. These all are some of the examples which all e-commerce mostly, because some of the e-commerce sites, e-commerce vendors, right? So to maintain actually they develop through web apps actually. Or if you see the NPS application, mostly whoever used, right, when you open, it will open the browser actually. So like this. And when it is coming to the pros and cons, actually, these are applications you can instantly access to the users via browser across all type of the phones, irrespective of Windows or Android or iPhone. And also it is easier to update as this is a single version. If you do the change, it will reflect for all the browsers. And also like because these all are basically you are directly browsing through your browser, so it will be like basically and search and listed in our common search engines. Whenever we open like Google or Bing, right, it will very easy actually to open these type of the applications. So and also it is like considerably cost effective, because in the case of the native apps you need to have multiple versions, right? In the web applications you can maintain only one application, so that's how you can also see the cost is less compared to the native apps. But there are some cons actually, as these all are internet based applications, you can't use the completely native interfaces. See, for example, if I wanted to use any of my own platform interface, there is no scope. And also like for example, there's a one more GUI means usability issue is like, for example, if you develop the web app, always you need to consider how this application will fit on all type of the browsers. Like for example, if I am opening through Google Chrome, how is it? And Microsoft Edge, how is it? Like this, you need to see that application compatibility with various versions of the web browsers. And also like basically it is not passed through any of the defined security test suits. There will be a slightly security issues. That's what whenever we also do some of the secure transactions, it will give, if you see some of the applications, it will ask you actually whenever we are also like using our cards or to pay some money, it will ask actually, yes, there's some security, you wanted to proceed or not, security gap like this. So like these type of notifications, and also it's not more secure actually compared to the native applications. And also to run this particular application, one more thing is you should always connect to the internet, then only these applications will work. If you don't have an internet, or if your device is not connected, you can't access this type of the applications. In the offline, this application is unavailable. So this is the basically the web application. Yeah, there's another type of the application called hybrid mobile apps. The name itself says the hybrid. Actually, this is a combination of both native application and web application functionality. So how this work actually? It is also looks like as a web application, but yes, this can be downloaded to the device through Play Store. That's how through the application store actually. That's what the advantage of having the hybrid application means. Still means you can retain actually the GUI across all the platform, and also you can upload those applications, and also you can download. That is the advantage of having the hybrid application. Some of the most popular hybrid applications, if you see, the Twitter, Gmail, Instagram, these all are the most popular applications. Yes, coming to the future, actually futures when it is coming to the hybrid applications, whether a device is connected or not, you can access the device. Maybe some functionalities might be restricted, or it won't open when it is internet is not there, but application can be open and can be used. And also you can have an integration, and you can have a access to use the device file system as well as the web-based services. And also as it is like basically this application also has the web apps. You can improve the access to get the dynamic content through the online. That one advantage, and that one of the future actually. When it is coming to the advantages like process, so yes, it will work actually. The same application can work on the different platforms, and it will be a faster actually compared to the native apps. And also yes, this with one version you can manage all of the versions. Obviously the cheaper actually to compare to the native apps to develop and to maintain actually. And also whenever you have fixed some of the issues, or if at all we wanted to do some features or patches, if at all we want, it is easier to launch. And this application can work online as well as the offline. But yes, there are some cons actually. So from platform to platform, see for example, the same type of the look and feel, if at all you wanted to give from Android to iOS or Harmony, you might need to do little changes. As it is, it might not work. But yes, you can reuse the logic, business logic, but the front end logic or GUI, you might need to change according to the device specification of the platform OS. And also coming to the testing effort, as this is a single app actually which we are targeting to work for the multiple platforms, we might need to test more actually in a lot of multiple ranges of the device, right from low pixel to high pixel, or low width screen to high width screen, and all different type of the variants as well as the different type of platforms. Yeah. Yes. So we'll just quickly compare actually which is the best and which is not the best. Means it's best or not best actually, that depends again on we'll talk about later. But when it is coming to the comparison wise, yes, if it is the native application, you can't reuse actually code reusability or class platform. In case of hybrid, yes. In case of web application, yes, you can reuse or you can use the same application to run in multiple platforms. When it is coming to the cost, development and maintenance cost, native is high because you need to have a different versions for each and every platform. For the hybrid and web application, the single version can be managed for the multiple ways. That's how low cost actually. And user interface, actually in the user interface, basically native will have very high look because you will directly develop for that particular platform. It's not the generic. And also you take the advantage of that particular platform instead of you develop through the web frameworks. You will use their own SDKs to develop. That's how you can achieve what type of functionality, and you can make more GUI effectively. In case of hybrid and hybrid, it's medium because still you have some of the access to get from of the native. And in case of HTML, it's mostly you can't find the difference between when you open the application from the desktop to mobile. That's how in the GUI level you categorize compared to the native, it's a low. Yes, it's when it is coming to the App Store distribution, native applications, yes, you have a privilege to download from the app stores. In case of hybrid also, yes, but in case of the web applications, you don't have, because these all run through the browsers. And also when it is coming to the offline access, native applications can run standalone as an individual application. Hybrid also can run because it uses internally the native interfaces. But when it is coming to the web application, no, because it runs through the browser. When internet is connected, then only you can run. Yeah, native API access. Yes, it's a native applications. It's a complete because you are using only that interfaces. Hybrid, yes, it's partial to high. Maybe some cases wherever you are trying to develop from the GUI level, if at all you wanted to update, you might not. But in the business logic, when you are developing that completely, you can use your native interfaces. But when it is coming to the web applications, you don't have access to use the native interfaces. Yes. Performance, native performance. In the case of the native, yes, it's a complete, and a hybrid, it's a partial, and HTML case low. So this how we can actually compare the parameters which all are to required actually. So if we see actually, if you see which is the best, which approach is best to develop the application. So that's how actually, if you see in our last slides where we were talking about the strategy, what type of the targets we are basically the targeting, and what are our functionalities. Based on that only, you can decide which type of application you need to develop actually. So it is not like a straightforward sentence that, okay, you go and develop a native, or you go and develop hybrid, or you go and develop web applications. Always you need to consider actually, these are the mainly points actually while developing the application. How fast you need the app, and how the quality of the user experience you wanted to, what type of experience you wanted to give your users, and what are the features and what type of complexity features which I am delivering as part of my application. These all are majorly, or see for example, if at all you wanted to use some of the security features or hardware specific features or native interface features, if at all you wanted to use, or maybe in some cases you don't need actually, you can use directly the interfaces which all are available in the open browser or open software, or like through the internet based softwares. If at all you have, based on that, those all parameters you need to consider, and based on that you can decide which type of the application is the best to suit. This how you can categorize the applications. Someone is having the question, looks like. Okay.
Yeah, this is Naveen here. Coming to performance, native applications and hybrid, native and hybrid applications.
Yeah.
Okay, which one is better to follow? Because if we take a native applications and hybrid applications, okay, native is for only Android and iOS, correct?
Correct.
And hybrid will work for Android, iOS, based on the plugin. We can do it for anything. Okay,
Yes.
web means only for browser. Okay, leave it web. Coming to hybrid and native applications, performance wise, I think native is better than hybrid, but problem is like compatibility, right?
Exactly, Naveen. You are right, actually, and also it's a good question. If you see, basically, if at all your application is having very much high graphics, and also those graphic interfaces are very, very proprietary to your hardware, as well as the what type of the graphics library you are using across your OS. Okay. See, for example, in case of hybrid, your application framework is same, but the down layer, it is different, right? So that time the adaptation layer, if not able to get, means you need to go via one more adaptation layer. But in case of native, you will directly have a call. But when it is coming to the normal functionalities, if you compare, maybe equal, but when it is coming to the very, very high complex functionalities, when you are using or when you wanted to have very good GUI or very hardware specific features or security features, that time compared to the hybrid, native stands first.
Okay. But compatibility wise, hybrid is better than native, right?
Obviously,
Because yeah. Okay.
because
Because less effort is required, because it same application will work in iOS as well as Android, right?
correct. See, that's how actually it decides actually which type of the application which I wanted to see. For example, if you are targeting for only Android, which you wanted to give very thing, but no, if you wanted to have more users to applications, see, for example, one vendor is coming up for commercial application development. Now, if you see in this pandemic, right, most of the things become online. One of the store vendor, for example, shopkeeper, if he wanted to advertise his thing, right, he doesn't bother. He wanted to have more customers, right, irrespective of either Android or iOS or Harmony. He doesn't bother much. Maybe when it is coming to some of the techie guy which is very fond about that Android, he wanted to learn and he wanted to do, he wanted to contribute more and more based on his own framework. That time he can develop very good GUI based application, right, in the Android. So that's how actually based on the target, based on the application thing, you can decide what type of the application. But when it is coming to the compatibility, yes, obviously hybrid stands first, because you can have the same application can run in multiple platforms.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how actually before slides we explained that the steps. Basically, that steps will give you an idea like what type of requirement you are trying to derive based on the market expectation or based on the number of the customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yes. So till now we were talking about type of the applications and history of the mobile development and importance of the mobile applications, right? Yes, these all are very good actually. Yes, right now, if you see as part of our mobile steps process, we understood now. We are now strategy and we are clear about the basically the requirements, how to get and what type of skill is required actually to develop. We are clear now. Yes, correct. Coming to the how I can develop my application, what type of platforms, cross platforms frameworks are available in the market. What is first of all cross platform framework? Yes, sir. Like one of the example just now we discussed, I think hybrid applications, as also Naveen was asking the question, right? It's a hybrid application where it will, if you develop, you can also reuse it in multiple platforms. Yes, that's a code reusability. Even in the next upcoming sessions also, we will more discuss about the reusability, where Sharath and Valuri will discuss more about the reusability also. This is how actually if you develop one code, how you can make utilize that particular code in multiple OS or multiple platforms. From that idea, it came actually the framework to develop the app for the cross platforms. You can develop one of the application which can run or which can compatible with more than one operating system. So, and also as code is once you write a code and code is a single base, if you wanted to release actually compared to the native apps or compared to the native apps, it is easy actually to release to a product with more quickly and with better quality as a because single thing. Also the advantages of having this thing is, yes, obviously with the cross platform, one thing is the code reusability and cost effectiveness. There's a consistency in the UI components, and it is easy to host actually multiple platforms. Also you have a cloud integration, and you can it is less fewer technical barriers and shorter time to the market. You can also release your application to the market also quickly. These are mostly the actually the advantages. We'll go through each and everything how it is. Like the benefits of the cross platform mobile apps, if you see, the first one is the reusability. Yes, a developer can write the code once and he can reuse that code for to run the applications on different platforms. Actually, this way you are eliminating the repetitive tasks and it will effectively save your operational cost. Instead of running the same application in Android and in the iOS framework, so if you develop with the cross platform application, the same application you can test. That's how your logic can be utilized completely, and you can save your cost as well as the time, and you can reduce the tasks, right? And another thing is, yes, obviously quicker development time, because if your demand is more and your customers wanted immediately the application, yes, you can develop a single code base for multiple applications, which can help to reduce the effort 60 to 70%. Actually, says the research says 60 to 80%, but at least 60 to 70% it's practically proved. So you can basically reduce the time, because of you're not going to develop newly from scratch. Here are where you might need to write some of the adaptation layers according to the different OS of specific interfaces, those things, because it is not always guaranteed actually. Whenever some API or whenever some interface is coming up from the OS, it's you can't expect always that API is a universal API which can run. Maybe there are 10% to 15% you can take variants. Those things you need to modify, but remaining most of your code logic or business logic will be reutilized. And also it will reduce the cost. Obviously your code base is single, it will also help to reduce the cost. Yes, and this one more thing is, it's easy to migrate to the cloud, and also easy to host actually whenever we wanted to release the software, or basically whatever security patches or whatever the fixes which I wanted to do, and those things updates you can do very easily. But yes, there are actually some challenges. Yes, it is difficult to find actually to maintain the tools actually in the cross platform, because as I mentioned, some of the interfaces or some of the tools might be changing from OS to OS. You can't have a generic tools also to test and to confirm or to certify your applications. Maybe those things, there are some challenges there. And also performance related glitches, maybe compared to the native apps or user experience wise, as we discussed earlier. If at all you use your native application, it's a straightforward call where you can expect immediately how much time I am taking and what is the optimization mechanism. But through this adaptation layer or through this hybrid framework, there are some here are where some change will be there compared to the native. But these challenges, if you see compared to the advantages, is very less actually. That's how most of the users are now preferring to go with the hybrid frameworks or cross-platform frameworks. Yeah. So till now, any question actually before jumping to the available frameworks and what are the types of the frameworks are available?
Srini, we have a question from Aditya in chat box. Question is, in case of web apps, is it possible to make legacy Android devices, that means lower than 2.3, to use geolocation API, JS geolocation API?
But it's Aditya. It's your question is for example, geolocation API is from basically the proprietary, right? that is from vary actually from OS to OS. For example, if at all you wanted to use from Android, you need to use the Android interface. If at all you wanted to use from iOS interface you need to use. So that time it is not possible to use through web app. I make it clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we discussed about the cross-platform frameworks. Yeah. Now if we see, just we will quickly run through what are the popular cross-platform frameworks are there. So what type of advantages and what type of cons are there? We will just quickly run through, and what is mostly like how that is like architecture. Some of the places where we discuss architecture. Flutter and Xamarin and React Native, Iconic Framework, Adobe PhoneGap. Maybe you might have heard actually. So these are most popular cross-platform frameworks which are available. So we'll go through one by one. Yeah. Like yes, in the previous session, Kamal also explained mostly about the open source, right? Many of that how that system was evolved and what are the things we need to take care of the open source. Mostly in the cross-platform frameworks also, we can see most of the frameworks are open source frameworks. Actually, if you see Flutter is from Google contribution. Actually, even though it is released in 2008, this SDK still stands one of the top or one of the best framework in the market actually, because it tries actually, and Flutter is basically developed as like object oriented language with dot coding framework, and it can also extend actually support for multiple languages like C, Java, and also more, because to support multiple platforms. So if we see, this is how actually the editor will be available. So you can write the application. That same application can see actually you can able to run in the iOS as well as the Android. So Flutter has given the APIs actually to use basically what type of the APIs and what are the functionalities, all you can find out from the Flutter development docs. Mostly this is this is the editor, which dot editor you can use to write a application and you will run the application. So also we will discuss in the next slide what are the advantages and disadvantages. So yes, sir. The advantage is having like basically in the Flutter is the process hot reloading feature. For example, you have developed and you wanted to see the change immediately. The change will reflect in the your environment, and also it is a very ideal framework for the MVP design pattern. So mostly you might have heard that MVP means model view pattern. So it you can develop the application like very quickly that looks native on both Android as well as the IOP, because that's how it is like see your, for example, here the model is like your data, and view is your GUI, pattern is the controller. See, for example, if there is some interface which at all you wanted to use, only you will change your pattern in the pattern, but your model and view completely you can make isolate and you can make it work in any of the OS. That's what the advantage of having this framework with the MVP pattern. And also it is from Google. It will try to give the actually the user look and feel as well as the designs of the widgets, material design. Those is very similar. If you find when you are working the Flutter, you can see very similarities with the Google Android. And also it is also having many of the ready-made tools where you can get the availability or flexibility and to do for continuous integration, like Travis and Jenkins. May, for example, these are the facilities which are available if at all you wanted to run continuous integration. Maybe some cases of the bug fixes, or when you are releasing, or when you are making the changes. So these all are very easy to adapt. But when it is coming to the cons, actually very limited support is there for the TV actually. As of now, currently it is not supporting for Android TV and Apple TV. And also basically even though it is a virtue we can say of the Google, but there are several libraries still lagged compared to the Android. But yes, you can built-in widgets you can do. If at all you are not able to find from the platform side, you can use the built-in widgets to develop or to achieve that functionality. That's how you can see here the application size will be little higher compared to the others. So this is the basically the concept of Flutter. So you can refer this site for more details about the interface details and how, what are the type of the interfaces which are available to develop the applications, those things. Yeah, the next framework is we talk about the React Native. Actually, React Native is from Facebook contribution to the open source. Actually, here here also, if you see how it is designed, is it is basically this is the native part, and you have a bridge, means interface layer, and you have a JavaScript layer where you can call the native methods of particular OS. See, for example, whenever we are getting some events like touch or some notification or any of the network call, so it will collect the data from the application and it will notify to the JS, and it will serialize the parameters according to the event which is expected, the data payload data as per the native interface, and it will serialize and it will process that particular payload through the JavaScript layer to the native method, and it will get the response, and again it will deparse the data, whatever the data which is getting as per the application expectation, and it will process that particular data through the commands, and it will update in the UI layer. This is how it will works in the React Native. This is the architecture. And when it is coming to the pros here, 80% of the code base can be shared across the platform depending on the app's complexity, which we talked about. There are some specific interfaces which are very like proprietary of that particular thing. You might need to change some of the things in the JavaScript layer, but remaining 80% of the logic you can reuse. And obviously another thing is hard reloading feature. Anyway, whatever the change which you are doing, it will immediately reflect and you can see the thing. And also one more thing is it gives actually the basically the native functionality. It gives access to certain some of the functionalities like accelerometer and camera. This like it gives the feeling, or it gives the like a native user, right? You will feel like a native application because you have a direct access to call the native method from the JavaScript layer. That's how this React Native works. Actually, this is the advantage. And like cons, actually, yes, it has some of the option to use that particular OS interface. You can't say 100%, but 80% you can say like of the code can be reused. So, and another one is that layer, whatever you are basically the using of that particular Android and OS, you need to make that particular layer as a separate, and you need to use as a module. Actually, when it is like when you are interface defining, your base interface might be same, but when it is iOS or when it is your Android, you might inherit to that particular specific to that interface, and you need to use, and again you can give back the data. So that part you need to develop. And also like basically it has some lack actually in the consistency of giving the releases in the React Native compared to the Flutter and all those things. That's one con. Some of the popular apps which made through the React Native is Instagram and Bloomberg. If you see, actually these are the applications, and Facebook. These are the applications which are developed through the React Native. So you can also refer this particular URL to know more about what type of functionalities or what type of features which is providing as part of the React Native interfaces. Yeah, the next one is the Ionic framework. This is also another open source platform which comes under the MIT license. This is also like this is one type of the X11 free license only. But this framework has created by Drifty and Co. This mostly shares the similarity with AngularJS actually. So, and also it uses the languages to develop the front end through HTML and CSS and JavaScript for translations. So you see, this is the Ionic framework where you will have a specific tags to access that particular things. For example, if I wanted to put a title, card title, I can go and I can define like this. So like this, you can have a framework. but this is like it is mostly based on the software as a service UI framework designed for mobile operating systems, and also it has actually very huge community, around 5 million, more than 5 million developers with 200 countries. This is one of the biggest, we can say biggest community actually to develop, and you can use a single code base. But one con also, because as this is very similar to the AngularJS, whoever knows the AngularJS, so they can easily adopt this thing. That becomes a necessity actually. And also here it comes as a license. Some of the thing, some free version has some limitations. If at all you wanted to use some own proprietary things, you might need to pay the money actually as part of this Ionic framework. The next one is the Xamarin framework. Actually, this is from Microsoft. This is also like this Xamarin is basically the adaptation layer, abstraction layer that manages basically the communication of shared code and the underlying platform code. See, for example, if you wanted to develop some of the application which can run in both Android as well as the iOS, so this particular part of the code you can make it through the Xamarin, and this is mostly your business logic, and your front end will be developed through the native UI of Android or iOS, and it internally calls like based on the platform. Actually, if it is the Android native, it will use the Linux kernel. If it is the iOS, it use the Unix like kernel, basically iOS APIs. And also this application development uses basically the C#, and it works both seamlessly for iOS as well as the Android. And also it also has a very good community, strong community, which people can make more use like interfaces and can open source. And also here 75% of the code means whatever your business logic, so completely you can reuse for any of the platform irrespective of your only UI logic will vary from OS to OS, or that particular SDK to this SDK. In case of Android, you use the Android SDK, iOS you use the iOS SDK. And a single tech, actually the stack will be a single, so that's how you can achieve like a faster development. So but here also one disadvantage is, or one you can say cons basically. So if at all you are very like using some of the complex or some of the GUI, very high GUI interface from the down layer, like graphics or trust zone features or whatever, like basically some of the biometric services, those are very particular about that corresponding OS. That time it is not recommended actually to use, because you need to again develop adaptation layer according to those interfaces actually, instead of reusing the existing interface. So those things you can't. So but in normal cases, this is recommended. And also as you know, all Microsoft, even though it open source, but it imposes actually some of the restriction for some of the interfaces, so it is limited actually for the developers to do the mobile development. Anyway, this is the link, you can refer more details about the interfaces and documentation. Yeah, the next one is actually Cordova. This is from Apache. Before it was developed by Nitobi. Later Adobe system has taken care and it is modified. It's renamed as a PhoneGap now. It is calling as a PhoneGap. Actually, in this framework, you have a actually facility to use the native interfaces like mobile OS interfaces through the Cordova plugins. So if you see your application, your front end you will develop through the web view, and your controller will be the web app through HTML or JavaScript. So these all are the plugins actually for each and every service from the OS which is giving. So you will have a plugins. Through these plugins, you will use that corresponding interface and you will render the data and give it back to the application to reflect to the user. That's how it works in the Cordova application. So coming to the pros and cons actually, so it has an advantage actually that the application which you develop, you can share within the open source team to collect the feedback. One thing, the community has provided that functionality. And also it offers a cloud solution to see whether your application is working fine or not, and if at all you wanted to verify your functionality of the things. And also it has a large community. It also have a lot of features to access third-party tools here. But yes, this is one of the thing common across we have seen in before platforms when we are discussing also, like high performance applications and hardware intensive apps like gaming apps and due to its own widgets, actually it might have some of the performance overhead. So because you have again one more layer on top of the OS, so that's how you can find little performance. So if we say quickly run through, this is basically the snapshot of the frameworks. Yes, if you see the top vendors, mostly all are there cross-platform frameworks. One is from Facebook, Flutter, React Native, and Ionic from Drifty, Flutter from Google, Adobe. And also coming to the market and community support, Facebook is very strong. We say Ionic is strong. Flutter is compared to this thing, not very, but PhoneGap is average. Yeah. And these all are the most popular apps which has developed through this particular frameworks. Actually. Now all are like when it is coming to the React Native, it's a completely open source. In the Ionic, some part is open source and some proprietary interfaces you need to take. And Flutter is fully open source. PhoneGap also is open source.